Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining Jeff Foundation's virtual webinar series today. We are going to just wait a few minutes here and allow some other attendees to get on. We have quite a few people registered, so just want to make sure we get the bunch on before we start. All right, good afternoon, everyone, again. Thank you so much again for joining Jeff Foundation's virtual workshop series. My name is Danielle Edwards. I am Jeff Foundation's Community Engagement Manager. I've been about a part of the organization now for 5 years, and while I wish we could be doing this in person through our family workshops, I'm so glad we're able to provide you with these educational webinars from the comfort of your home. Today, we're so excited to have Basim from FibroGen with us, who will be speaking more about the company and their drug development pipeline. Please make sure to drop any questions you may have for FibroGen in the chat below, so that they can answer it after the presentation is complete. With that being said, I hope everyone enjoys the webinar today, and thank you so much again for joining. I'll pass it over to you, Basim. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jet Foundation. On behalf of FibroGen, I would like to thank Jet Foundation for inviting FibroGen to present our milestone program here in development for Duchenne muscular dystrophy. I'm delighted to be joined by Dr. Elias Koshashgi as well. He is our Senior VP of Clinical Development and Drug Safety, and my colleagues, Dr. Ken Lipson. He is also a discovery lead in FibroGen. In a nutshell, I'm a board certified surgeon by training. I did my training back in SUNY downstate and then Brooklyn Hospital. Then I joined Amgen and then moved to FibroGen to lead this program in Duchenne muscular dystrophy. Without further ado, let me introduce our program in here. So I'm going to talk about 3 or actually 4 points. What's Palmyrablumab and where we stand in terms of the regulatory update. Our phase 3 Atlantis studies aiming for only for non-ambulatory patient, and Atlantis 2 for study 94 for ambulatory patients. And then I'm going to conclude my presentation, and then I'll open the panel for discussion, question and answer. And I'm happy to answer with Elias and Ken any question you might have. All right, so Palmyrablumab is an anti-fibrotic drug. It's a monoclonal antibody, and we met with the FDA back in April 2019, and we submit our briefing book to them, and they granted Palmyrablumab an orphan designation. In November 2019, we traveled as a team to Europe, and we met with the EMA, and they designated and approved Palmyrablumab as an orphan indication as well. In November 2019, FibroGen met with FDA, and in January 2020, we met with the EMA, and in March 2022, we met with MHRA. And then during this meeting, we presented the phase 2 trial, the outcome, the preliminary result from our phase 2 trial, which is the study 079. And it's a preliminary results, and we presented that to the health authorities. And in addition, we developed a clinical development plan to be presented as well with the data that we had from the phase 2 trial to the health authorities. In a nutshell, all health authorities approved our development plan. They blessed the program endpoint design-wise, and they give us the green lights to start our phase 3 trials. And they approved us, they agreed to have 2 trials for Palmyrablumab, one aiming for non-ambulatory patient and the second for ambulatory subjects. And that's what we are doing as we speak. Next slide is right here. Okay, so let me speak about Atlantis One, which is a study 093 that it's a phase 3 randomized double-blind trial for Palmyrablumab or placebo in combination with systemic corticosteroid or deflazacort in subjects who are non-ambulatory. Our objective, of course, to evaluate the efficacy and safety of Palmyrablumab versus placebo in combination with systemic steroid or deflazacort in non-ambulatory subjects. The dose of Palmyrablumab is 35 milligram per kilogram intravenous infusion bi-weekly, every 2 weeks. And the duration of the trial is 52 weeks. And we anticipate all subjects who completed the trial, we're going to be receiving 27 infusions over the course of the trial for 1 year. Of course, steroids is orally, deflazacort or prednisolone are given orally. Next slide. All right, so we are targeting the Atlantis One Trial is a non-ambulatory trial. As I mentioned, it will be at 12 years of age and older. Patient must be in non-ambulatory status. We are aiming to enroll 90 patients, randomized 1-to-1. One arm we're going to have Palmyrablumab, the second arm we're going to have placebo control, in addition to systemic steroids in both arms. Why? Because we don't want to prevent any possible treatment for the Duchenne patients. Screening will be for 4 weeks. The trial itself, it's for 1 year, and follow-up for almost 60 days after the last dose of the trial of Palmyrablumab. As I mentioned, 2 arms, arm A, 35 mg per kilogram, IV infusion biweekly, and arm B is the same thing as matching placebo, intravenous infusion biweekly, plus systemic steroid, of course, in both arms. So after 1 year, what happened? So after 1 year, that patient who completed the trial in both arms will be rolled over to an open label extension study for 4 additional years, where they receive only Palmyrablumab as an open label, in addition to any approved therapy for Duchenne muscular dystrophy. So if any, like Exonitis, Vyondys, and you are eligible to it, you're going to receive it in the OLE phase after we finish the blinded phase. And then, so we discussed these endpoints with the health authorities, and they all agreed with our endpoints. And so what we are targeting here for this study is primary endpoint is a change in the total score of the performance of the upper limb. We know that the upper limb performance of the upper limb is a very important task for our patients. Therefore, we had it as a primary endpoint, as a function endpoint. Second endpoint, we're going to assess the forced vital capacity percent predicted, changes from baseline to week 52, and the peak expiratory flow also will be evaluated. Performance-wise, we're going to check we're going to analyze and change the grip strength in the hand by handheld biometry, and also we're going to evaluate the hearts of the patient, our patient, mainly the ejection fraction done by MRI. That's it for our primary and secondary endpoints. For some reason, the mouse can't see it. Oh, here we go. Got it? Yeah, oops, went so far. Apologize for that. All right, so our phase 3 Atlantis trial, we're going to also look at the safety. So we can't ignore that. So we'll look at all adverse events led to discontinuation of the trial. We're going to be we're going to analyze these events once it comes. And also we're going to look at the percentage of hospitalization due to any serious adverse event due to pulmonary or cardiac events. So if respiratory events or heart events, we're going to look at that, any hospitalization that might happen during the trial. As an exploratory endpoint, we have Duchenne video assessment. We have a vendor who can provide an Apple, like a phone with application, will be easy to be downloaded, and the caregiver, we're going to take some tiny little videos. They were going to train the parents and the caregiver to take these videos for their patients, because we understand that the patients, there is a tiny little movement or improvement in their functional endpoints. And it's better to be assessed during the patient at rest without traveling to the sites and coming back from the sites. It's very hard. So we agreed to have that as an exploratory endpoint, so that the caregiver, the parents, we're going to take videos for the patient. All that will be trained, given as a training for the parents and the caregiver to how to use this application and take these videos for this patient. And then we're going to look at this tiny little changes in their function endpoint, like in muscle or what they were able to do, which is really give us the true idea about the real life changes in our patients. In addition to that, we're going to look at the forced expiratory volume at 1 second, and we're going to look at the one genotype has in combination with dilated cardiomyopathy, which that genotype is LTBB4. In addition to that, we're going to have a bunch of MRIs done as an exploratory endpoint. So as I mentioned, Palmyrablumab is an anti-fibrotic drug. So we're going to look at the biceps brachii, changes in the fibrosis score measured by MRI. And also we're going to look at the cardiac fibrosis assessed by late gadolinium enhancement, which is a cardiac MRI. And we're going to look at also the myocardial circumferential strain as a global measurement, better than the ejection fraction, and give the clinician better idea how to measure the ejection fraction in a better way. The circumferential strain itself, we'll measure it by MRI as well. All right. So as I said, that this is the inclusion criteria. It will be 12 years of age, and there's a bunch of other criteria. The main point here, it's a busy slide. So ejection fraction has to be 50 and above. Forced expiratory volume, forced vital capacity percent predicted will be an average up between 45 to 85. And prior use of cardiomyopathy, the patient, if he has cardiomyopathy, it has to be in a stable dose of the 9 yards of the treatment of cardiomyopathy, including beta blockers, aldosterone receptors blockers, and so forth. So, and there is no change for at least 1 month prior to screening. In addition to that, patient must be on a stable dose of systemic steroid or deflazacort, according to the Duchenne care consideration, or stable dose. So we understand some of the steroid doses given weekly, especially in that age group, and in a different doses and regimen. Therefore, we are flexible in this. However, it has to be on a steroid in both arms while the patient is taking our investigational product. And all right. Okay, so the exclusion criteria, those are the criteria that for the patient who can be not enrolled in the trial. Of course, if he has allergy or anaphylactic reaction to a monoclonal antibody, should not be receiving Palmyrablumab. Patient who is currently taking any investigational trials drug, should not be taken. She should not be enrolled. In addition to Exonidis, Vyondis, Olgoldersin medication should not be given while the patient is in the trial. However, if the patient stopped it 5 half-lives before screening, should be enrolled, or at least considered to be enrolled. NYHA, what's that? NYHA is a New York Heart Association class for heart failure, should be class 4 and 5 should be ruled out or not be enrolled in the trial. Any arrhythmia or on anti-arrhythmic drug should not be enrolled. Require, of course, continuous ventilation for more than 16 hours. Hospitalization due to respiratory failure for within 8 weeks before screening should not be enrolled. And we left it open for the medical judgment for our investigator. We are lucky that we have really great investigators participating in our trials. We left that issue for them to judge whether the patient can participate in the trial or not. And then also we didn't forget about how we're going to assess the pulmonary function test and the MRI. So we have a centralized charter. We developed a team, blinded team, and will be blinded. We're going to look at all our the pulmonary function test measured in this trial and the MRI results according to the FDA guidelines in clinical trial for endpoint, especially for the ejection fraction, because it's an endpoint in our trial and in the other MRIs. There will be a data monitoring committee looking at the safety of Palmyrablumab in addition to or placebo, of course, in our trial. And this DMC will going to be aligned with Palmyrablumab routine pharmacovigilance activities that has been done in a routinely based or regular base here in FibroGen. The first 3 doses will be given at the infusion at the site, and then we have an option for patients to receive the drug or the placebo at their home by healthcare, home healthcare. However, we have to approve this on in a case-by-case basis, especially with the COVID right now. It's very challenging for nurses to travel and also to be exposed to others and all that. So we will have a look at this point in further detail, especially with the pandemic that we are going through as we speak. All right, so that's done with the Atlantis One, which is a non-ambulatory trial. So what's the phase 3 other trial that has been blessed by the health authorities is the phase 3 targeting ambulatory subject. It's a study, it's a Atlantis 2, and it's a study 94. We're going to enroll patients who are 6 to less than 12, actually. This is a typo, I apologize for that. And the design will be randomized, double-blinded, two treatment arm, 1-to-1, 70 subjects. We are targeting to enroll 70 subjects. The same dose, 35 milligram per kilogram biweekly, plus systemic steroid or deflazacort in both arms, and matching placebo in the other arm. And we're going to randomize this patient and stratify the randomization based on the exon 44 deletion, because we understand that the loss of ambulation is impacted by exon 44. So, and same scenario, same concept. The patient who completed the 52 weeks in both arms will be eligible to roll over into open label extension drug, where they will receive Palmyrablumab as an open label plus steroid plus any approved therapy for Duchenne. So if this patient, if the patient continue with a blinded phase, will be and decided, of course, and the parent decided, agreed to roll the patient into the open label, will be able to receive Exondys, Vyondys, and any other approved therapy in addition to our investigational product during the OLE phase. Our primary endpoint will be also function endpoint, will be a North Star from baseline to week 52. And then a bunch of secondary endpoints, mainly function endpoints, which are a 4-stair climb velocity, 10-meter walk run test, and then time to stand from the changes from baseline to week 52, and loss of ambulation. We added this lately in our, once we amend the protocol, because we really need to measure the impact of Palmyrablumab. Does Palmyrablumab impact the loss of ambulation? Does delay the loss of ambulation versus placebo? That's what we are targeting to study here. Next, the same thing. We're going to look at the adverse event, and due to any lab abnormalities or that will be having looked at. Same Duchenne video assessment will be also used in this trial, and change in the lower extremities vastus lateralis by MRI will be used, will be measured as an exploratory endpoint. ejection fraction measured by cardiac MRI, and bunch of pulmonary function test parameters, which is a percent predicted force of vital capacity, peak expiratory flow, and forced expiratory volume per the standard of care. So I believe that, if I remember correct, I guess the pulmonary function test is done every 3 months and will be done as an expiratory endpoint in that trial. I also forgot to mention that both trials will be globally. So we're going to expect a lot of patients from US and others from Europe and other intercontinental, like Australia and all other Asian regions in the across the world. The data monitoring committee will be utilized to use by external expertise to look at the safety in addition to FibroGen pharmacovigilance activity. Pharmacovigilance, the word is a strange word, but it says in a simple language is the safety of Palmyrablumab. The MRI will be looked at especially for the vastus lateralis muscle, and will according to the clinical trial, the guidelines by FDA to the industry. The first 3 doses of the investigational trial will be can be given at the sites, or will be given at the sites, and then the subsequent infusion can be given by home healthcare nurse or practitioner, but has to be also approved by us on a case-by-case basis. And we have also to consider the COVID, as I mentioned earlier. And in relation to this point, we support our patient to travel. I mean, we pay for the patient to travel from their home to the sites and all that. So thanks to FibroGen actually supporting this. This is really nice things to be done. In a nutshell, Palmyrablumab mitigate the fibrosis, and regardless of the genetic mutation. So based on our phase 2 trial, all patients who enrolled in the phase 2 showed some potential benefits of using Palmyrablumab, and that's why we built our clinical trial for the phase 3 based on the results from the phase 2. As you know, muscle and heart and cardiac and muscle function and cardiac function, respiratory function are the leading cause of morbidity and mortality in this population. Therefore, we are paying attention to, especially to those endpoints, to measure it in a way that we can add values to these patients. Hopefully, we will succeed one day. FibroGen believe this is the first time that antifibrotic agent showed potential benefits based on our phase 2 trial, and we hope we're going to see the same success we noticed in the phase 2 in this phase 3 studies. And as I said, this encouraged us to start our phase 3 trials in targeting 2 patient ambulatory and non-ambulatory patients. And that's conclude my presentation. And I want to thank again Jet Foundation for inviting FibroGen. I want to thank the family. I thanks our patients, our key investigators. Actually, we have great investigators participating in our trial. I'm proud of knowing them personally, and they are really great. And without them, we could not succeed in these trials at all. And now I will leave it to you guys to decide what's the next step. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Basim, for that presentation. It was fantastic. Right now, we do have quite a few questions coming in through the chat. I'm happy to read those off for you and kind of just address them as we go.
Can you open them? Elias also will gonna. Elias, our senior VP, will also be participating, and Ken will be participating if there is questions for that. Of course, Elias will jump.
If anyone, either of you guys can jump on in here and answer. One of the first questions we have is: Have you seen the 2019 reverse fibrosis in DMD or any fibrosis? I'm assuming you're saying. Sorry, it's a little unclear. I guess, and probably. I guess, yeah, the second question too, have you seen any reverse of fibrosis in either the muscle, heart, or lungs? Our son has maintained, but wondering if you have seen other improvements.
Okay. Of course, Ken or Elias can chime in. Let me take the first snap here. So we look at our ejection fraction, for instance, our muscle function test, the performance of upper limb, and we correlate that to the level of the fibrosis measured by MRI. We found a nice correlation between the improvement of the performance of the upper limb and the reduction of the fibrosis. In addition, we looked at the ejection fraction. We found the same thing. We found the ejection fraction is slightly better or stable, and the fibrosis changes in the heart, in the cardiac muscle done by MRI is declining. And indirectly, that's could answer the question. And I will leave Ken or Elias if they have any additional point to add. Elias?
Okay, thank you, Bassem. First of all, this is really interesting question to be asked. As we know that this study is still small, so this is all still as a directionally as we're seeing some modification. I'd like to get your attention to a different study. We have a study in pulmonary fibrosis. This is usually hit more elderly people, and it is similarly is a fatal disease, and this is very debilitating disease. We completed a phase 2 study, placebo-controlled. In that study, we did a CT scan, high-resolution CT scan, and we seen that as in this study that we have some patient, we have a reduction in the fibrosis or stabilization in fibrosis. That means we are preventing in some of the patient the fibrosis from increasing. Based on all this body of evidence, we do believe that Palmyrablumab has play a role in modifying the fibrotic process and modifying the existing fibrosis. The extent of this is still have to be proven within that phase 3 studies.
Thank you, Elias.
Okay. Another we have is, what is the BMI requirement and height requirement?
Oh, nice question. So the BMI, I believe it's 45, if my memory serves me correct. It's 45%. And then the height, we're gonna do, because it's a dose based on the, we're gonna use the ulnar length for the height, because we understand that the patient on wheelchair and all that. So that, I hope that will answer the question. This is an equation for ulnar length, and that's what we're going to use. It's a standard equation.
Okay.
That's simply, there is no requirement for the height. The height is used to measure the to assess the BMI. So that is the only. So the requirement, as Bassem said, that is the maximum of the BMI is 45.
Okay, great. And another question for requirements regarding the Brooks score: will the boys need to be able to raise arms above the shoulders to qualify?
The answer is based on the score of more than 5 to qualify. That's based on the chart. Should be the answer. Yes.
So it's not by one function; is by the add-on of all this to total functions.
Correct.
Okay, great. Another question is, any plans on opening additional sites and home infusions?
I think it's based on the, as I mentioned in my presentation, it's COVID. It's challenging, really challenging us from operational, a lot of consideration with the COVID and all that. But we are looking into open. Once all that subsides, all this pandemic, hopefully we're going to look at this in an extended way. Elias, do you want to add something?
I will say that it's taking a look at the size of the study. That is what would dictate that potentially the number of sites that is could be activated. So we took a look at this very seriously, and we are still activating sites. So we have not yet completed activating all our sites. So beyond that, the site that is being qualified and assessed at this moment, we're not looking to increase additional site. If any of potential patients that is would like to know where is a closer site to them, so they can contact our contact information, we can direct them to the sites nearby that they can attend to. Understanding that sometimes this will require extended travel. Usually you need sites that have experience in clinical trials for us to ensure that the quality of the data is being collected could be defended and could be validated. for this reasons, that is sometimes limit the number of the site that we can activate.
Thank you.
Thank you. And also, as Elias highlighted, we have a lot of sites actually spread across the United States in every single region, and same in Europe, and we have in Australia, and we have in I believe in Europe a lot of sites as well. So we are targeting good number of sites.
Awesome. Thank you guys for that. Another question, is there a weight limit regarding the BMI as well?
The maximum dose based on, we have a maximum dose we have in the protocol, and there is no maximum weight. However, the BMI is weight and height must be measured to fit the patient into the BMI criteria. It's the same thing.
Okay. How low of a steroid can you be on to be accepted into this trial?
It's depend on the investigator discretion, and we understand that there is variable regimen for each brand, and each deflazacort is different than others, and things like that. So we left it open for the discretion of the PI. However, patient must be on a steroid in both arms while he is in the trial.
Okay. What would you consider a participant to be considered for non-ambulatory?
Good question. So non-ambulatory is defined per the guideline, and the guideline is clearly said patient is wheelchair bound. So we have to follow that.
I guess just to elaborate a little bit more on that, just from for me as a question, would that be someone whose child can walk a few steps on their own unassisted, or entirely unassisted?
Should not be, yeah, entirely unassisted, with no using of any assisted device or like it has to be in a wheelchair, unfortunately. However, don't forget, we have an ambulatory trial, so patients who can ambulate, we can go into the ambulatory trial, which will start soon. So we covered a broad spectrum of the Duchenne population, but we have to follow the guidelines. That's why we are obligated to follow that.
Great. So I guess it goes into, can you clarify the age requirements for the study? Are two 12 years old, right, I believe, are eligible?
12 and older. We don't have upper limit of age for the non-ambulatory study. However, the ambulatory trial is 6 to less than 12. From 6 years of age up to 12 years of age. So if 11,999 can be in that ambulatory trial.
Are you allowed to be on other approved products or treatments while in the study?
In the open label extension only, not in the blinded phase. The blinded phase, if the patient is on any approved therapy during the blinded phase, cannot be enrolled in our trial. However, if after 1 year and the patient finished that blinded trial, can be rolled over to the OLE, can be given any approved therapy like Exondys, Vyndus, and so forth.
Should the only approved product this could be on is the corticosteroid, which is the deflazacort, as approved in the US. So that is the only approved product that this could be during the blinded time of the study. So for the patient who's already currently on other approved therapy, unfortunately cannot be included in this study.
True, good point, yeah.
Are there plans to offer home infusions for the existing trial patients?
We already, we do have home infusion in our existing trial patient. But as I said, again, home infusion is limited now because of the pandemic. We'd love to have them. And in the meantime, we are allowing patients, we pay for the travel and all that.
No. So let me elaborate a little on this. First of all, we do not make this decision on the home infusion, as we made this is available for the current patients who are continuing from the phase 2 study. This is a discussion between the investigator and the family and the patient, and for the best options. We know that some of our investigators at this time, they do not prefer the patient to receive the home infusion. They still like to monitor the patient personally. And if that is a discussion need to occur between So this option is available, and when we get informed that a decision is made between the patient, the family, and the investigator, we will oblige in providing the home infusion. We are making our best effort to provide it in a safe environment that can minimize the contact with an outside healthcare or people who have many other contacts, specifically within this not well controlled pandemic. We are hoping that is now, as we heard, the first country in UK approved the first vaccine, and we know there is the US will review this is very soon. As a matter of fact, as I heard, that is the decision to review it is on the 4th of this month, which is Friday, a couple of days from today. It's that might even open the door much more for the healthcare provider who provide home care healthcare that can be attend and provide this at home. Again, that is a decision need to be made by the patient, family, and the investigator.
I totally agree. Yeah.
Okay, another question is a PFT still a requirement? My son cannot complete this related due to his cognitive delays.
It is a inclusion criteria, yes. Patient in the ambulatory trial, it should be average between 45, forced vital capacity percent predicted should be between 45 to 85 inclusive, and we're going to use the average, which is easy to easy the process on the spirometry, and we know that how hard it is, that test for these kids. In the ambulatory trial, we have above 45. We kept it open because we have 6-minute walk test and all that stuff, so which can mandate. Usually these patients in the young population, they are having really good lungs, and I would assume better or good pulmonary function test.
So a simple answer to this, yes, PFT have to be able to be completed for the patient to be considered for the trial, as has been required in our protocol and as been agreed upon with all the regulators. So we do not have the choice to deviate from this, and a deviation in our clinical trial is not acceptable, as that by regulation is no longer acceptable. And for this reason, yes, have to be able to complete the PFTs.
My son is 18 and 190 pounds. He has good arm movements, but is non-ambulatory. Would he be allowed to participate in this study?
He's non-ambulatory? What did you say?
My son is 18, 190 pounds, has good arm movements, but is non-ambulatory. Would he be? Yes.
Yeah, should be.
Yes. There is no limitation of the use of the arm or lack of use of the arm. So this is not. So,
could you talk again real quick about the lack of arms? What'd you say? Sorry.
There is no limitation of the lack of use of arm or the use of arm as an inclusion or exclusion criteria. The limitation if the patient is non-ambulatory to be truly non-ambulatory patients.
Yeah.
Okay, and this trial is open to all mutations?
Yes.
All right, and I think that's it about for questions. If anyone else has anyone, please feel free to throw it through. But again, thank you guys so much. This was fantastic and great. Thank you for answering those questions too. I think a lot of people took away from that. If there's no more
for inviting us, actually, and on behalf of FibroGen, we are delighted actually to present our success here to the community and the patients, our clinicians. Want to again thanks the investigators. Without these guys, we cannot succeed. Thank you, and of course the family and the patient and the sacrifice they made in this process, enrolling their kids and loved one. Elias, you want to wrap up?
Yes, I will echo what Bassem said. I want to thank the Jet Foundation for putting this educational program. And please, if you have any additional question, don't hesitate to contact us. We are looking forward to be part of this community on the long range in term. So we hoping that we complete this enrollment on these studies to verify the value of this drug in our Duchenne patient, and if it's have a good value, so we can be able to provide it sooner than later. We welcome your question, and please don't hesitate to send them to us, and we will be willing to respond as soon as possible. Thank you for the Jet Foundation again. This is a very good program, and this community is proven time and time again as they work together to bring the best information from the investigator, from the prescriber, and from the family and the patients. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. I think I can, speak a little bit more for the community here, and we're just so glad again to have so many companies in the space dedicated to improving the lives of those impacted by Duchenne. So we look forward to working more with you, and thank you everyone for joining. This webinar will be recorded and posted onto our website, so please feel free to share it with others who could benefit from it. Please feel free to share with your clinicians. And again, please don't hesitate to reach back out to Jet Foundation or FibroGen for any more questions you may have regarding this study. Thank you all so much, and I hope you have a great day and look forward to seeing you again soon on a webinar. Thank you everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.